Hello there, one and all. This is Liz Grace Christie. Thank you for tuning into my channel, Galactic Mythology, a channel where we explore esoterica, mythology, astrology, and the asteroid goddesses and how they pertain to our mundane lives throughout the weekend, Friday through Monday. And this weekend, we are talking about May 23rd through May 26th, 2025. This weekend isn't for the faint of heart. It's an initiation portal. And I'll tell you why. On Friday, May 23rd, we start off with the moon in the sign of Aries. And ladies and gentlemen, theys and them, the moon has a very busy weekend. Lots of planets and asteroid goddesses to see. Oh, also, happy birthday, Geminis. The sun entered into the sign of Gemini on May 20th, this last Tuesday, 2025. Happy birthday, y'all. Gemini suns. You're bringing in the heat, that's for sure. There's a lot going on this weekend, May 23rd through May 26th. And on Friday with the moon in Aries, she will be visiting Neptune, Ceres, Gemini, asteroid Chiron, the wounded healer, along with asteroid goddess Eris, a goddess I haven't spoken too much of on these reports. Eris has to do with the battlefield, bloodlust. She's a goddess that takes no sides. She will kill either side of the opposing forces. She has no allegiance. She's a sign that can be represented in the sign of Libra if we think about radical acceptance, but also radical violence. That's Eris. She is very balanced to the degree that she has no side on the battlefield. When you see Eris on the battlefield, everyone's afraid. That means it doesn't matter who you're representing. You are at risk when Eris shows up. She has no allegiance. She's ruthless. She has a lot to do with shadow work in astrology. Wherever Eris shows up in your natal chart would be a place to explore in shadow work. Eris also moves really slow. She's a trans-Neptunian asteroid, so I don't really talk about her that much because of that. So really when you're studying Eris, because pretty much everyone right now has Eris in Aries, but it's in earlier degrees, whereas this weekend it's at 25 degrees conjunct Chiron. So it is a theme, for sure. It's a theme of wounds, battlefields, no sides, learning how to take acceptance and take stock of your life in a way that's healthy for you so that you can transmute these demons into friends, so that you can realize that you are actually the whole landscape of the battlefield. You're the red side and the blue side all at once. That is also a high octave of Eris that's mixing in a little bit of that Chiron alchemy. But to delineate Eris in a natal chart, you could look at the house. For me, I have Eris in the 11th house. So I find that I have a lot of shadow work in my community. On top of that, I have a south node in my first house. So that is saying that I'm very comfortable alone. For those of you that are more advanced in astrology, that probably makes more sense. But basically what I'm distilling is that I have a leaning towards being more alone in my life and comfortable in my own energy and find a lot of creativity in stock. I'm actually an introvert, and through the last, I would say 20 years of my life, I've been actively working on being an extrovert. I have a joke that I'm a high functioning introvert, and that just means that I pretty much feel uncomfortable all the time in social experiences. And I consciously make a choice to interact with people because there's a desire and impulse from within me, an evolutionary drive to communicate and be in community. And I think that's why when I explore avenues such as creating podcasts, using my voice, and even DJing, which are things that force me to be more active among people, I find that I have a lot more success and a lot more support from the universe. And not to go any longer on a tangent, but I never thought I would be creating a weekly podcast. I never thought I would be a DJ. It all happened because I'm being pushed by the universe and within my heart to do these things, because I cannot ignore the signs because we're all in communication with our universe here, okay? I went to school to become a fashion designer and I still make clothes. I am switching up my gears. I'm going to go to school and become a psychologist. Woohoo. And I'm still going to be an astrologer. What I'm saying is initiation axis. Sometimes you don't know what you're going to become, and sometimes you don't realize throughout your life that you're participating in a giant ceremony that leads up to this weekend, the initiation axis. And I'm talking about that because we have a new moon on Monday, May 26, 2025. It is going to be conjunct the fixed star Aldebaran, which is a stargate in galactic astrology. It's also esoterically a star of leadership, of war, of public presence, severity. It's a time to stand in our truth when we see Aldebaran show up to the party. And that new moon is going to be conjunct Aldebaran on Monday. Aldebaran in astrology, in tropical astrology, can be seen in the 10th degree of the sign of Gemini. The 10th degree of the sign of Gemini is in opposition to a non-traditional zodiac sign known as Ophiuchus, a sign that I have created a video on about 2 years ago, and please excuse the awful audio on that. I didn't know what I was doing, and I was hyper-focused on something, and I have obviously gotten a lot better at my audio production quality since then, and I've decided to create a new video. So watch out. In the next 2 weeks, you'll see a new Ophiuchus video, and hopefully it will be just as informative as my first one, because despite the audio quality being cringy, it actually has really good information. I watched it yesterday and I actually found myself captivated by my own work, which was weird, but it's been about 2 years since I've recorded and created that. So I needed to remind myself of what I already produced. I don't think I've watched it in about 2 years. And I got captivated by my own work. So I think that says something, right? So initiation portals. Ophiuchus. Ophiuchus is a sign, the 13th zodiac sign that is not widely accepted by modern astrologers today. I talk about it, but I don't necessarily work with it. I've had a 13 sign zodiac reading done for me in the past, and I was just looking over that reading this morning, and I found it to be actually very informative. And in some ways, I think it has a lot more parallels to Vedic astrology than it does to tropical astrology, such as Western astrology. But anyways, to get on with my point here, Aldebaran is in our tropical zodiac at 10 degrees of Gemini. If we switch the coin over and we start using Ophiuchus, we're going to say that Ophiuchus starts around 8 degrees of the sign of Sagittarius. If it was in the 13 sign zodiac wheel, it would of course be its own entire sign. However, looking in the 12 sign system, it is in Sagittarius at 8 degrees. Aldebaran is at 10 degrees. So what I'm saying is that there is tension here between the sign Ophiuchus and Aldebaran throughout the weekend. And I think this is going to be a theme that is going to build until the Sagittarius full moon, which will occur in June, later on in Gemini season. And that will be around June 11th, 2025, at the 20th degree of Sagittarius, making it about 7 degrees away from the galactic center in the sign of Sagittarius. The sun at 20 degrees of the sign of Gemini, and Jupiter will be ingressed at 0 degrees of Cancer at this time, suggesting a massive energy shift during the totality of the full moon in Sagittarius. Another point to be made is with the moon this weekend, May 23rd through May 26th, visiting Neptune, Ceres, Venus, Chiron, Eris, Mercury, Uranus, and then the sun and Aldebaran by Monday. Doesn't that sound exhausting? You know, what's curious is this weekend is a very social weekend. I know off the top of my head that there is lightning in a bottle happening on the West Coast in California, a transformational music festival that's very popular. There's also a astrology conference happening in the Pacific Northwest. I'll be attending that. It's called NORWAC, Northwest Astrology Conference. That's what it stands for. Looking forward to that. So it's a social weekend. The moon is literally visiting a bunch of people. So let's see who we're going to see. A Neptune person. We're going to see a Ceres person. We're going to see a Venus person. We're going to see a Chiron person. We're going to see an Aries Eris. We're going to see an Eris person. Also, let's just throw in Saturn because the moon was hanging out with Saturn on Thursday and the moon was hanging out with the North Node on Thursday. So you're going to see probably glimpses of your future, along with having to be very methodical and process-oriented upon your travels this weekend. There is going to be the Neptune person who will probably be a source of so much joy for you or a source of overwhelmingness. Ceres, there's going to be a nurturer, someone who will be feeding you when you need to be fed. There's going to be a Venus person, someone that is beautiful and oh so sweet. And there will be Chiron, someone that reminds you of your wounds. And then Eris, remember her? Watch out for Eris this weekend. She gives no fucks. We also got Mercury, who will be hanging out with the moon on Sunday. And Mercury will be a point of tension this weekend before Sunday because Mercury is going to be squaring Pallas Athena in the sign of Aquarius at the 24th degree, suggesting that there is a lack of grounding upon us and a risk of overstimulation. That's going to be a thing for you all going to lightning in a bottle to be just a little bit more conscious of over the weekend. Your senses are literally going to be bombarded, and if you feel like you need to tap out for a second and actually sit on the ground, I would totally suggest doing it because your monkey human mind is going to be fighting your inner wisdom, Pallas Athena. Try to see the higher octave of this by allowing these experiences to be truth tellers to you of your human experience. Listen to your inner wisdom over that monkey mind, and you might just learn something that can save you in the future. We want to make sure that we are taking care of our bodies this weekend because with that Mercury square to Pallas Athena, I think that our minds are going to be working on overdrive. Mercury being the mind in the sign of Taurus and in a square to Pallas Athena, who is getting an extra kick by Jupiter in the sign of Gemini at the 26th degree of Gemini, making Pallas Athena stronger in this square battle between Mercury and her, Pallas Athena. I feel like there will be inner nudges and a lot of external signs. The communication with the universe is going to be amplified this weekend, and that really aligns with that concept of the initiation portal, with what I talked about with Ophiuchus and Aldebaran with that Gemini new moon. Pallas Athena and this square dance between Mercury is only backing up this theme, which is initiation, standing in your truth, being able to listen to that inner compass over that monkey chittering mind. There's a lot of potential for a lot of miracles. Expect miracles this weekend. How about that? That's literally the best advice I could give you, because why the hell not? We got the moon hanging out with everyone, having fun. Everyone at LIB, the intention is usually to have fun, to see art. NORWAC, the astrology conference, is a lot of fun. It's going to be a lot of opportunity to network. We're literally walking into a doorway. We could look at Aldebaran as a key in the sense that Aldebaran is almost like the vessel to which that walks through the portal. I feel like Aldebaran is very much so linked to humanity and its survival. It's a guardian, a protector, a limit, but it's also a expander of consciousness if we learn how to work with the energy of Aldebaran correctly, which is through standing in our truth. Aldebaran is a very public star in the sense that it's almost like the 10th house has almost this earthy Capricorn cardinal energy, but it's in the sign of Gemini and tropical zodiac. But of course, if you're going to go look up Aldebaran, it will say that it's in the constellation Taurus as the bull's eye, which is true because there's a lot of things in the tropical zodiac measurement system that don't line up with how the constellations actually are in the sky, which is going to be a conversation about the equinoxes and along with the tilt of the earth and the seasons. And that's not what I'm going to get into on this podcast. Aldebaran is the key, and then Ophiuchus is essentially the door to mysteries, to our shadow, to the unknown. Ophiuchus is represented as the snake and is linked to Medusa, to the divine feminine, and is also linked to Asclepius, a masculine, along with Perseus and other characters that are also male. So this sign is highly feminine, but it's also balanced with the masculine, Ophiuchus, the snake bearer. Initiation portals, they're opening. It's open this weekend. Walk into it. Don't be afraid. I have so much coming up in the next couple weeks. Once Labor Day weekend hits in my book, summer is here, even though technically the summer solstice isn't until June. So we'll have that Sagittarius full moon on June 11th. And then shortly after it will turn into summer, I know, but in my mind, once Labor Day weekend hits, it's summertime because we got Norwalk going off. And then there's just so many more events going on after that. So if you want to connect with me outside of this podcast, please look up my website, galacticmythology.com. There you can find my astrology offerings, where I offer astrology readings through the lens of my galactic and evolutionary astrology perspective. I do 30-minute and 1-hour consultations. I also do synastry readings, which is relationship readings for 2 natal charts. And I also do astrocartography if you are curious about where you want to travel, where you want to move, where you want to visit, and how those places affect your personal natal chart. I also have created a product called the Intuition Kit, which is a kit that teaches you how to use a pendulum, which will directly give you a stronger connection to your higher self, your guides, and your intuition. I offer my podcast listeners 20% off on a intuition kit. That knocks off about $11. Just use promo code podcast20 at checkout, and you can find intuition kits on my website, galacticmythology.com. Thank you all for listening to the end. You'll hear from me next weekend. Stay safe out there and have fun. Bye.